In our previous episode, we showed how every human being on the planet is agnostic when it comes to God. But, we said, within the circle of agnosticism, not knowing, we can have rational discussions as to the pros and cons of belief in God. The rest of our series will be devoted to examining those pros and cons. Given the senses that we have, can we surmise whether the existence of God is likely or unlikely? But first, we must define what we mean by God in these discussions. God means different things to different people. In order to think about this subject at all, we need to come to terms. We need to define what we mean by God. In Western culture, God has usually been defined as follows: God is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and omnibenevolent. Or, to say the same thing in more common English, God is all-powerful, all-knowing, all-present, and all-good. This, then, is the particular God we will be discussing. So, let's begin with the most popular pro-argument for God's existence itself. We can ask, why is there something rather than nothing? We naturally assume that every effect has a cause. That's the way things work in our universe. It seems a natural question, then, to ask, what caused the universe? Since every effect has a cause, we either have an infinite regress, A was caused by B, which was caused by C, which was caused by D, and so on forever, or there was an uncaused cause, and this first cause caused everything else. Can't we call this first cause God? To put it simply, we look at nature all around us, life, the stars, the universe. We call this creation. Doesn't creation necessitate a creator, and can't we call this creator God? On the con side, we must first note that this argument does not answer the question it posed: why is there something rather than nothing? If the answer is meant to be God, then it just pushes the quandary back one level, onto God. And then we have to ask, why is there God rather than nothing? Neither side really has a good answer to the question of why there is something rather than nothing. It lies beyond the circle of what is knowable. So, the honest answer is not God, but rather, we don't know. Secondly, the argument does not address any part of the definition of God we are using. If something created the universe, that something would certainly be powerful, that need not be omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, or omnibenevolent. Cause and effect exist within the confines of the universe. There may not be a cause of the universe itself. That said, let us now consider whether this first cause argument is valid. Right away we notice that there is a major contradiction inherent in this argument. We can plainly see it if we express it as a syllogism. Everything must have a cause. An infinite chain of causes is impossible. Therefore there must exist a first cause which had no cause. It is plain to see that the conclusion contradicts the first premise, rendering the argument logically invalid. On the other hand, if the first premise is true, then the conclusion is false. It is a classic case of a logically invalid argument. Not only is the argument invalid, it seems that the conclusion is false, the first premise is false, and the second premise is false. False premise 1, everything must have a cause. This premise is denied by the argument's own conclusion. Theists deny this premise by believing that God does not have a cause. On the other side, the premise is denied when it is held that the universe does not have a cause. If everything must have a cause, then God must have a cause, otherwise we'd have to throw out the first premise, destroying the entire argument. If God does not have a cause, then everything does not have a cause. If everything does not have a cause, then theists have no grounds for objecting to a universe which has no cause. We have reached a stalemate. Both sides believe that there is something which was not caused. We just give this something different names and attributes. False premise 2, an infinite chain of causes is impossible. As far as we know, an infinite chain of causes is perfectly possible in an infinite universe. The theory of relativity has shown, and many experiments have verified that time is the fourth dimension of space. If space is infinite, then time may be infinite as well. Newton's laws of inertia state that a body at rest will remain at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. But Newton's laws also state that a body in motion will remain in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. If the universe has always existed, it is just as likely that it has always been in motion than that it was at rest for an eternity before something caused it to move. Therefore, we have no need of a first cause. Theologians sometimes insist that there must have been a first cause in order for there to be a second cause, a third cause, and so on. Extending the series, they claim there would no causes today if there hadn't been a first cause. But all this means is that we cannot assign a numerical order to the causes in the universe. We face the same limitation when we consider space. Every spatially existing thing in the universe must have a center. But where is the center of the universe itself? This is a nonsensical question because there is no center to a spatially infinite universe. So too, there is no cause to a temporally infinite universe. False conclusion: there must exist a first cause which had no cause. The argument's first premise contradicts this conclusion. As explained above, the universe itself requires no cause, it could have always existed. Matter could have always been in motion, in which case there was no first cause any more than there is a physical place where the infinite universe starts. There are things which our finite brains cannot fathom. Our brains evolved to assist us in surviving the day-to-day ordeals of life on Earth. They are attuned to things which, like ourselves, have beginnings and endings, both spatial and temporal. When we turn these brains to the contemplation of the universe itself, rather than the things in the universe, it boggles our minds. When we think about space, we cannot conceive of a place in the universe where space ends. Can you picture yourself floating out among the stars, billions of light years from Earth, and seeing an end to space? So what can you picture? A wall? But look on the other side of that wall and what must your mind picture? More space. So, we cannot conceive of an end to space. But neither can we conceive of infinite space. We can only picture ourselves as being at some point in space, and then imagining ourselves at a further point in space, and so on. We can never fathom the full picture because we have finite minds. So too, we cannot comprehend a start to time, or conversely, an eternity of time stretching into the past. In the face of these difficulties, it doesn't solve a thing to claim that they somehow proved that there was a conscious being in eternal existence prior to the universe who created the universe out of nothing. It merely moves the questions back from the universe to this new hypothetical being called God, and adds numerous new questions to which we can never know the answer. What then caused God? We must ask. If God was an intelligent being, then what did he think about for all eternity before he decided to create the universe? If God were perfect, why would he ever act to create the universe? A perfect being would be perfectly content as it was. It would have no need or desire to create anything. In primitive times, before humankind had built upon thousands of years of accumulated knowledge, we tended to attribute every unknown cause to a god. Winds blew. Why? There was a wind god blowing on us. Rain fell. Why? There was a god of rain watering the land for us. A volcano erupted. Why? There was a god of the mountain we had displeased. In time, we learned the real causes of all of these effects. We found out that natural, understandable forces caused them. As knowledge has grown, God's role in the universe has shrunk. The hypothesis of God as the ultimate cause of anything has been replaced with knowledge of the real causes. Looked at historically, we can now see that using God as an explanation for the cause of anything was really just saying, we don't know. As knowledge has grown, We have replaced the God hypothesis with explanations which better fit the reality around us. There are still some things we don't know, but it would seem more honest to admit that we don't know than to say God did it.